You just get a call that your child was bitten by a dog, and the owner's already claiming it's not the dog's fault because of the type of breed or the type of dog that it was. You're angry, you're confused, and you're stuck wondering if Indiana law is actually going to protect you or protect the dog. And if you don't get it right, you're worried that you may be stuck with thousands of dollars in medical bills with no legal recourse. I'm Chris Blackburn.
And I'm Chad Romey, and we're personal injury attorneys here in Indiana. And in this video, we're going to walk you through exactly how the breed does or doesn't impact the case after a dog bite, so that you can understand your rights, hold the owner accountable if possible, and get your family the support that you actually deserve. So the core question here is that we're addressing in this video: does a dog's breed impact a dog bite case proceeds after the event? And the short answer to that is no. A slightly longer answer to that is maybe. So, and the point that we're making is, in Indiana, the basic law is that in order for a dog owner to be held liable or responsible for the harm that their dog causes, is that they have to be on notice that the animal they have is dangerous or it has dangerous propensities. They need to know that their dog was likely or probably going to harm somebody. And so the basic rule here in Indiana is if a dog owner knows that their animal is dangerous, and by no, I mean they're on notice that their dog in the past has acted aggressively, has bitten somebody, maybe even growled at somebody, they're now on notice that that dog could be dangerous in the wrong or the right circumstances. That's what we call, very loosely here in Indiana, the one bite rule. Every dog gets one free bite, meaning they get one instance in which they've put their dog owner on notice that they're dangerous.
Other basics here are going to be strict liability. So strict liability is going to be similar to a speeding ticket. It's hard to get out of a speeding ticket. Here, if postal carrier is in the course of their employment, so U.S. mail is out there delivering mail, they're in a neighborhood, and then a dog bites them, strict liability. The dog owner is liable for their dog's actions at that point.
Regardless if the dog owner knew their dog was dangerous.
Regardless if it's a pit bull, a Rottweiler, a poodle, or anything. It just doesn't matter.
Yeah. And so when we say the breed typically in Indiana doesn't matter, it's because the court is not going to say, well, you owned a Rottweiler and that Rottweiler bit somebody, so therefore, even though that Rottweiler had never put you on notice previously that he was dangerous, well, it's a Rottweiler and so therefore it's dangerous. However, the courts can look at breed as one of the factors. So you can own a pit bull that has never bitten anybody before, and then it bites somebody. Believe me, the person who was bit is going to use the fact that it was a pit bull to indicate that is one of the factors that you as a dog owner should have taken into consideration with how you control the animal. It is not the only thing the court will look at, but it is one of those factors. And certain breeds kind of fit that profile. Pit bulls, Rottweilers, Dobermans, and they fit that profile. Why, Chris?
Because generally the common knowledge is that those types of dogs exhibit dangerous propensities. Statistically speaking, too, most of the bites across, at least in Indiana and really the 50 states, those types of dogs are going to be statistically towards the top. So it's a fact that you can use to argue that this dog was genetically predisposed to be more dangerous. Now, the defense will dispute that, but it's another fact that can be brought to the table. There's a lot of other facts that we're going to look at here. One is going to be the actions or the inactions of the parties. So was someone trespassing, or did the person provoke the dog in some capacity? Whether someone's trespassing, why is that important?
Well, it is at the heart of every dog bite case is what did the owner know, or what should the owner have known about their animal. But then there's all those, a lot of different factors, like, well, was the dog protecting his own property? Was the dog off property? Was the dog on leash or off leash? If you are coming into a dog's territory, then it doesn't mean that now it's free reign for the dog. It just is one of those elements that a court will look at, or a jury would look at, to say, okay, was the dog owner reasonable? Because the main thing here when it comes to dog bites is, was the dog owner controlling the animal? If you have control of your dog, if your dog is on leash, that's a whole lot different than if your dog is running around the neighborhood, right? And so that's where trespassing or comes in because it talks about owner control of the dog.
I can give you an example where a client of mine was bitten by a dog, and the dog owner's house, the perimeter was fenced in. However, it was the type of fence that allowed a small child to reach in. And so, of course, kids are going to be, most kids anyway, will be attracted to dogs because they're animals. And so in this particular case, the child reached through the fence to pet the dog and then was bitten. So a lot of questions there were, of course, well, what type of dog was it? Whether the dog had bitten someone before, whether there were any previous instances. Did that particular dog have any training? But then the core question in that quick case, was, well, was that child on the other person's property? Complicated case. We're able to resolve it, but the defense argued pretty heavily that my client, that the child had not even gone on the property, and therefore, when she crossed over, she was trespassing.
And that, again, the more dangerous the animal is with respect to what the owner knew, especially when it comes to prior instances, the less convincing those defenses become. Because if you know you have a extremely dangerous animal and you know it is possible for people to come onto your property, well then, again, it's not strict liability where if it happens, then the dog owner is automatically at fault. But again, the more dangerous the animal is, the more likely it is that the dog owner will be held responsible for that. So I think in sum, breed itself is not one of those things that the court looks at and says the dog is a pit bull, therefore it's dangerous. But any dog that has bitten somebody in the past, that's the hurdle. I mean, if we have a dog who is bitten, I had a client once who was bitten by a dog, and it was the 5th incident.
Very uncommon.
Yeah.
Usually 9 times out of 10, we don't get evidence of a prior bite.
Yeah. And this was the 5th incident that had been reported to animal control. And so it likely had other incidents that just simply weren't reported. And I say all of that about the courts not being concerned with the specific breed necessarily. There are such things as called breed-specific legislation, where there are some cities or local ordinances that will identify a specific breed and say that breed is considered dangerous for the purposes of, if you want to own it in our city, just understand that you're on notice that you have a dangerous animal. And so that makes it a lot easier if you're pursuing a claim against that dog owner. Another interesting thing about breeds, one of the biggest, is usually really easy to prove in dog bite cases. The hard part in a lot of these cases is simply finding insurance.
It's sometimes hard to find. So typically we do a lot of car accident cases, and people are usually, they have no problem giving up their car insurance, whether the cops come or not. Cops come, it's required. It's the first thing that the cop asks for. Dog bite cases, it's extremely different. Usually what we find is that the defendants aren't willing to give that information up. And I think it has to do with the mindset that, well, this is going to increase my rates. It's something that it's a car accident. We're used to paying for insurance to cover accidents every day. Dog bites aren't as common. And we have defendants call in and get mad at us because of what we're doing. But we've also had defendants who acknowledge and then freely give it up. So it's hard to find insurance, especially where you run into where someone might be renting.
Yeah, because a lot of renters' policies are not covering liability. So if I'm just renting an apartment or renting a house, and if I get insurance, I'm just covering my sofa and my TV. Right? If the place burns down, I want to make sure I have my stuff gets reimbursed.
If you even have renter's insurance.
Yeah, so it's if you even have it. So finding if a dog has bitten somebody, you have to be able to find somebody on the other side who has liability coverage. It doesn't mean that that's the only way you have a case, but ultimately, if you're pursuing a claim against somebody, the idea is to make a recovery against them. And so insurance is the easiest way to do that. I had a case once where somebody owned their home and had insurance on the home. They owned their home and had coverage on their home, but that coverage did not have a liability portion to it. And so that family ended up paying out of pocket, which was really painful for them, and it made the process on our end a lot harder as well.
I was going to say, sometimes there are step-down provisions in the liability, and I've had a case.
The liability coverage, the insurance.
So liability in general, in this particular case, I think it was set at $300,000 for any type of accident on the property, but there was a rider within the policy where if it was a dog bite, then it was step down to $50,000. And that's from an insurance perspective, that's all that the insurance would have to pay, whether it was through a settlement or through a trial and a judgment was rendered.
And there are certain insurance companies or policies that do mention breed specific. Hey, we will cover your dog, but we're not going to cover your pit bull.
What about, and this is kind of a catch-22 sometimes, where we will use signage. So you come across, and I'm kind of bouncing around here, but it's a fact that courts are going to look at when it comes to posting signs. Beware of dog. What's your take on that?
Well, I think, again, a lot of the facts that you see, a lot of the different bits of evidence, it all comes down to who's telling the story about the evidence. And so if it's a very, very credible defendant who puts up the beware of dog sign, and they're going to tell the story to the jury. Yeah, I put that up, but it wasn't because I thought my dog was dangerous. It's because I live in a dangerous neighborhood. And all I wanted is to let people know that, hey, I've got a dangerous dog in here. Don't come in. But my dog was never dangerous.
To protect them.
To protect them. So it's now, of course, on the plaintiff side, we're going to say, really, somebody with a little fluffy dog who's just the worst thing they ever did is lick you too much. That person's not putting up the beware of dog sign, is the person that knows they have a dangerous animal, who's trying to warn the neighborhood, hey, I have a dangerous animal, so stay off my lawn.
Those signs can go two ways. I mean, lawyers are going to get crafty on both sides of the fence and try to use the sign in a light that is best for their client.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, sometimes somebody will put up a beware of dog sign after the dog bite.
Right. You had that happen recently, didn't
you? Yeah. Is that admissible in front of a jury? So then, after all this talk about dog breeds, what do you do after a dog bite?
Very similar to any other accident. The first things first, you got to assess how bad the bite is. Check out your injuries. You're going to have, usually my clients will testify that they have a lot of shock. Some of them didn't even know that they were bitten until after the fact. Really interesting. Dogs are going to bite through clothes. So take the opportunity to really assess how bad it is. If you can remember, you're going to want to take photographs. Talk to the witnesses who were there, if anybody, get their name, phone number, address, just in case, and call 911, make a bite report. Usually either the cops will come out, depending on what government agency it is, or the actual animal care and control. They'll be able to tap into their database to see if that dog has bitten anyone. And what we have found too is people, a lot of their main concern at that point may not even be the injuries, depending on the severity, but has the dog been vaccinated for rabies?
Yeah.
So they have a legitimate concern. Oh my gosh, I was just bit by a dog. Have no knowledge on this dog. Don't even know the owner. Does this dog have rabies? And now do I have rabies? So that's probably one of the best reasons to call the police so that you can get started on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're the owner of the dog that bit somebody, first thing you do is you be a good human and you help the person that was injured. You make sure your dog is contained at that point. You want to provide your information to the authorities and to the victim about rabies vaccination, because that is obviously a very serious concern for somebody who's with open wounds like that. Cooperate with the authorities, and I mean, at that point, your dog might be taken, especially given the history of the dog. Your dog might have to be disposed of. And so you want to cooperate with the authorities with the understanding that, again, you have this dangerous animal and something you're going to have to jump through some hoops legally to either get the dog back or to try to protect the dog if you're trying not to get it euthanized. So
outside of this is after a dog bite has happened, but from an owner's perspective to try to prevent bites, because usually dog bites happen to small children. Most of our clients that are dog bites happen to smaller kids. It's unfortunate. If you really want to protect yourself, then you need to be doing things like fencing in your yard, making sure your dog is on a leash, make sure that if you're walking your dog outside of your yard that they're leashed in as well. But also get the proper training for the dog and then document that, keep that documentation.
So what did we just learn? In Indiana, the breed of the dog does not matter in terms that it's not the deciding factor. The courts can look at it as one of the many elements of proving liability. It's the actions of the dog and the behavior of the owner that are much more important. And the actions of the dog, we're talking about prior actions and, of course, the actions in the event itself. Local rules or insurance companies may have their own policies regarding certain breeds. But if you're facing a dog bite situation, knowing the facts and acting quickly is always your best defense. So call a lawyer if you don't know what to do, and the lawyer can at least walk you through the steps of what you should or shouldn't be doing. Now, if you found this video on dog bites to be helpful dog breeds, then you absolutely need to check out our next video, which is completely unrelated. 5 tricks to getting paid. To dog breeds. 5 tricks to getting paid big for your car accident. It's packed with tips you can use right now to protect your rights and make sure you get every dollar you deserve after a crash. Click over there now. Don't miss out on information that could save you thousands. We will see you over there.